I'm so excited. Kirsten DiMartino, who's been on also on the bid board, and I've gotten to work with her. Just love you to death. She's the director of campus and visitor relations, and Stephanie Benson Gonzalez is the director of parent and family program. And we're going to talk about, they're going to present, we're going to talk a little bit more about what UW students are looking for to make their experience even better. So ladies, thank you so much for being here. And Jason, thanks for arranging this.
Yeah, thank you. I am going to share my screen and hopefully do this correctly. Looks good. Awesome.
Looks great.
Awesome. Well, we can maybe start with some introductions. Stephanie, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Thanks, Kirsten, and thanks for having me, everyone. I'm already just was interesting to hear the first updates, and I'm really interested in the breadth and kind of scope of this committee. But as was shared, I'm Stephanie Benson Gonzalez. I direct UW's Parent and Family Program, and I'll just briefly share a little bit about what that means and what that looks like. But essentially, we serve as a central resource for anyone who supports a student. We have a focus on the undergraduate population, but we have a database of almost 60,000 people who have a current student here at UW-Madison. And this could be, parents, family members, grandparents, aunts, uncles, anyone who wants to be connected to support their students' success. So there are three sort of main ways that we connect with that stakeholder group. One is through events, which I'll talk about a little in this presentation in terms of that downtown interaction. One is through communications, and then the third is through customer service. And so we answer thousands of questions every year through phone, email, and social media. And related to social media, we have a robust Facebook group of about 20,000 members that can also serve as sort of a daily focus group. And so I would say, in that customer service realm also is where I'll be drawing on some insights for this presentation around downtown perception. And then also we did a quick just pulse poll within that Facebook group to ask a question about quality of life that I'll talk about as well.
And I am Kirsten DiMartino, Director of Campus and Visitor Relations. Emily Henkin is a member of our team as well. So I just want to acknowledge that, and that Emily is a great resource here too. We like to say that our department serves as the welcoming front door for campus, for visitors. We serve an average of 120,000 visitors through our campus and community information desks, and also our campus tour program. We provide tours for both prospective and admitted students, as well as field trips, specialty groups, delegations, and those that want to come and visit campus. And so I think in 2023, we had over 46,000 prospective students and their family members for campus tours. We know that we are a popular destination right now. And so I think that with that, the key members of our team, we have 7 other professional staff, and most importantly, 120 student staff who work on our team, who are providing information at our campus and community desks, answering 5 campus phone lines and a campus email account in that customer service space. And then also our tour guide team, who really, I think similarly, are a great pulse on what students are thinking and feeling at any given time. And so I also reached out to and did a quick survey of our team, and they were gracious to give some great input for this presentation as well. As you can imagine, our student team are very engaged students, but they are navigating those questions about the campus and the city on a daily basis, and just have a good sense of what's up. So that will kind of kick off what we have to share in terms of some of our themes that we heard. So I am gonna, there we go. As I wanted to start with just sharing, as a whole, I think our students are very happy with downtown, and their UW experience is very much intertwined and flows on and off campus into downtown every single day. They truly live, work, eat, play downtown. It is their space. And I thought a fun way to showcase that is something that we showcase on our campus tours. So our campus tours start at Union South and then make a loop through downtown and kind of the central campus space and then back to Union South. And there are two key stops that I always like to talk about that really showcase what makes our campus unique. On any campus, they're going to see residence halls, they're going to see academic buildings, but it is this part of the tour where they cross from East Campus Mall, go through the area by the Chazen and stop there, and then go into the State Street Mall, Library Mall area and talk about and really look down State Street into downtown and talk about that vibrancy of the off-campus experience that our students get to partake in when they go here. That highlights that connection to the city. And then shortly after that, they walk across into Alumni Park and showcase our beautiful lake. And the guests really get to get that feel for nature and that connection of city and nature that is so unique to our isthmus here. And those are really those are our selling point moments, if you will, when I think visitors are really taken with what makes this place so special. And I will say at our library mall stop, we will often see families peel off because they decide they just want to go have lunch on State Street and don't necessarily want to finish the rest of the route. And we're okay with that because we know that's a selling point as well. But we really are showcasing on a day-to-day basis that really important connection that we have. And we know that students are engaged in so many ways. I asked the students, what were you hoping for from downtown as you arrived on campus? And you can on the screen read some of the different quotes that they shared. But generally our guides really reflected that they wanted that vibrant, bustling environment of downtown Madison. They wanted a variety of entertainment options. They wanted good restaurants, coffee shops, shopping, engaging community events. Safety and cleanliness and that sense of connection to the city were really important to them. And availability of diverse recreation and leisure spaces, I think, is key. But I think you can see whether they were coming from small town and for them this was a big new city experience, or I also have a quote in here from someone from New York City who wanted to be able to match their college experience to that vibrancy that they were used to experiencing being from a big city. They're looking for that dynamic, immersive city experience that complements the academic setting of the university. I think that that's really key. Stephanie, is there anything you wanted to add here?
Thanks, Kirsten. We have a lot of anecdotal. We don't formally survey parents right now about our downtown area, but we do an annual survey of parents and families. We call our comprehensive survey. It used to be biannual, now we're doing it every year. And I do think, and maybe it'd be great to hear from this group, we could embed a question about downtown quality of life or perception. But we do have a lot of anecdotal evidence from families that this is a huge draw during their visit. A lot of times within our Facebook group, people are sharing photos of their experience on State Street, their time at restaurants, maybe their tour of the Capitol or the ways they're experiencing downtown. And I think the other thing that parents tend to value is that relationship that the university has with the community and with the Capitol. So when we do survey parents and families, we have one of our questions, we ask them about what topics matter to them. And for a while when we were doing the survey, they could select as many as they'd like. And so they just selected everything. So like everything was important. So we altered the question over time to have it be more of a ranking to really kind of understand what's most important or what's most impactful. And career services was the #1 topic, finding careers, finding internships. And so I think about that as it relates to sort of the connection that students have to downtown. I think building on what Kirsten said about that selling point of the university and being able to be a student but not be in a bubble. And, you know, when I go to different conferences across the nation, so many campuses are just that campus. And so one of the things I feel like maybe our program could talk more about through our communications lens is the ways in which, and maybe student profiles of ways in which they're utilizing the businesses, the resources, the companies, the Capitol downtown to be able to further their career and internship goals as well.
Our students certainly have feedback, as they do for all things we do in our office. They had some great thoughts, and I think that are really connected to the work this group is already doing. One of the biggest concerns we really heard was about affordability. That should come as no surprise, particularly on the housing space. It is a really important conversation for our students and our families right now. I think the concerns about both rent prices, particularly I think with some of the newer buildings, the price points are presenting some sticker shock to our students and their families. But I think they also talked about just affordability of groceries, of being able to shop and wanting to support small businesses, but also recognizing that they're on a student budget. And we know that that student budget can look really different across the range of our students that we have on campus. In terms of what they have for disposable income. And so I think this is really top of mind for students right now. I know that DMI has groups talking about affordable housing and that the university is engaged in the conversation, which is really important. But I think this is one piece of input that really is a conversation happening in a lot of spaces right now.
Kirsten, thank you.
Yep.
I mentioned that pulse poll that we did for parents and families earlier this week, asked about the primary quality of life issues that are affecting their student or that they're thinking about. And I think this is it'd be nice maybe to replicate this pulse poll of parents at another time. Affordable housing is just so much so on people's minds. I think that just sort of dominated their responses and also the feedback that we received. I do think if we did this poll 2 or 3 years ago, we would have different results and kind of different themes that were coming forward. So a couple of things here that I want to share a little bit about things that we've heard outside of this moment in time for families that might not have come through as strongly on this survey. Are parking and hotel rates. And so this is no surprise to all of you too. But I think something that I'll talk a little bit about later in the presentation about the times in which we welcome families to campus. And one of the events that we've created that takes off this April is called Badger Family Spring Visit, where we feature a menu of free and low-cost events happening on campus and in the Madison community, a lot of which are taking place downtown. And one of the reasons that we feature every weekend in April is to kind of help families find a time where those hotel prices might not be, increased in the way that they are during family weekends, say, or doing a Badger football game. So we're trying to think about ways that we can think about access for families at other points in time. One of the ways that we've thought about that too, and we haven't quite gotten there yet, but we do have a colleague on campus, and we've worked for a few years with a company called Badger Sports Properties that thinks about our sponsorship relationships, and Kirsten and I are involved together in a number of campus contracts. And one of the things that I've talked with them about is be great for family weekend if a hotel, like they don't have to give me money, but if they wanted to hold a hotel block for families who are Pell eligible, and could we do some matching there as well? So if you all think of creative solutions too, to be able to increase access, especially at some of those key points that I'll run through later when we have a lot of families on campus. And I think about that most acutely for commencement too. In a lot of ways, a lot of the other events that our office hosts, they're great, but they're optional. Commencement is not optional for a lot of families. And so that didn't come through as strongly here, but I know that that is a barrier for people to be able to experience and enjoy the downtown community and have that positive sentiment about their experience. I think that's one thing that sometimes is hard for us when we are welcoming families to campus, is that sentiment feeling around, even though it's just a hotel price, it makes sense, right? From a business perspective that they would increase it, that sentiment or that feeling of welcome might be impacted, especially with some of the rates that really can get, for some of the hotels downtown really can get quite astronomical, as I think you all, likely know well too. Less on parking than I thought, because that does come up from time to time. So I was encouraged to see that. And then also too, we'll talk more about safety later in the presentation, but that had a little bit of a bump here as well. And then some of the write-in answers that we found were also related to affordable housing. So I think that topic is just sort of dominating the minds of parents and families, and is something we're trying to communicate on. But as we're limited in some ways on sort of the immediate ways that we might be able to assist students in that way.
Yeah, talking about safety, it definitely came up with the students. And really, there were some interesting quotes here about safety, cleanliness, and infrastructure. Really, the connection of um, safety to the bus system and some of the need for being able to get to and from downtown or home. And feeling like that's a safe experience. I think in terms of talking about safety and perceptions of safety, one of the things that didn't come out necessarily as much in this survey, but that connects to the color of drinking survey, which is a campus survey that was administered in 2015, 2017, and then most recently, this past fall 2023, it was administered again. That most recent data is still being analyzed, so we don't have the reports from that. But I think the connection of feelings of safety to drinking culture are really important to talk about, and particularly that some of the times our students really feel less safe in downtown spaces is when their peers and others are drinking. And so they identified in the survey some different spaces that students actively maybe avoid during times others are drinking, and State Street was one of those. And so I think that's an important point of consideration, and one that we'll come back to as we talk about opportunities or things kind of students identified that could be cool additions to downtown. But I think safety, I know safety is a regular conversation in this group. And I know it's a key factor for our students. It's also the most common question we get during prospective and admitted student tours from students and their families about downtown and wanting to get a sense of how safe is downtown, what do I need to know about navigating the city safely, etc.
Yeah, one thing I'll note that's like maybe a little bit of a tangent, but relates to the color of drinking survey and safety. Family Weekend for many years was administered by the Wisconsin Alumni Association, and it was hosted on a football game. One of the reasons we've intentionally taken Family Weekend off of a football game is knowing that students and families of color feel less safe in those areas that do have a high drinking culture. And so thinking about that dynamic too, I'll add our office is located within Student Affairs, and Student Affairs has a lot of offices that are located in the Red Gym, which, as Kirsten mentioned, of course, is near State Street. And knowing that a lot of those services and offices in the Red Gym are focused on supporting students of color, and thinking about if there's nighttime programming there and State Street feels like a place where there's a lot of white students partaking in high-risk behavior, how does that land? How do we think about space? So Student Affairs right now is in a sort of a very large project working with consultants to think broadly about space and thinking about students who are marginalized on this campus and how alcohol and downtown kind of impacts that. So don't have an exact kind of next step on that at this point, but that's a larger conversation we're thinking about as a campus, particularly for our students of color. The other thing I wanted to mention with safety that is hard for me sometimes in working with parents and families is I do worry about the emphasis that families place on folks who are experiencing homelessness as it relates to how their student may or may not be safe on this campus. And we know from our data, sexual assault, it tends to be peer-to-peer, right? Happening in a residence hall or happening in an off-campus housing space. And so, not to say that downtown safety isn't a topic and a priority, and I know something that we're all thinking about, but I would like to continue to talk with parents more about safety and what they might perceive as a threat versus what an actual threat is, how they might talk to their students about the choices that they're making that impact their safety and the safety of their peers in the community. Because we do get feedback sometimes from parents and families saying Madison is unsafe because there are folks who are unhoused in downtown. And I want to challenge that narrative in ways that we can. I also really liked looking through the comments that Kirsten shared regarding what students were looking for as it related to safety. And I think we have another slide, Kirsten, related to folks who are experiencing homelessness. And I'll share a little bit more about some thoughts I have on ways that we might talk with parents about that later.
My next slide, in fact. Yep. I think that I want to just acknowledge, I think, at least within those that responded from our team, there was a strong, compassionate response in regards to the unhoused residents in Madison, and the idea of wanting to support, like recognizing the seriousness of the issue, but wanting to support compassionate solutions to the problem, and really recognizing that the goal is not to just displace or eliminate the unhoused population, but really recognizing that there are solutions needed in terms of housing options, in terms of safe spaces for those who are unhoused. And so it definitely came up as a place that they recognize about our city right now, and something to tackle. But I think overall, they were really looking for the resources to be developed to support the community.
Yeah, I think the only thing I'll add related to that is I would love for our office, maybe in partnership with you all or in thinking about maybe key stakeholders you could connect us to. And I think about Porchlight, we haven't collaborated with them previously, but I would love to invite parents into this. And I don't know, that could be, I don't know if that's philanthropic and, talking to our advancement colleagues. I don't know if that's sort of values oriented. I don't know if it's in terms of talking to their student about how to be of service to the community. But I do think this is an area where perhaps we could collaborate from a communications perspective.
I would totally agree. I think any opportunity to share more information about some of the solutions and things that are being worked on, and getting that information to our students who may not always be an audience that hears what's going on, would be really key. Absolutely. This is my favorite slide to talk about, which is the opportunities and the things students shared that they would be excited about in terms of additions to State Street. I asked what they actually actively utilize in terms of resources and amenities, so you can see the results here. I think our students are very actively engaged in eating downtown, as you can see, with the restaurants and farmers markets being the most popular, which makes sense, probably true for many of us as well. And I think nightlife and events and festivals were noted. I think the night market was specifically called out of, I love the night market. Can we have more? Which I will leave to Matt, knowing all that goes into those. But I think they're also really taking advantage of the nature of our city, the lakes, beaches, parks. There was an ask for more green space, and really valuing the green space of the city. But I think as they talked about what they wanted more, one thing I wanted to call out was there was very much an interest in more activity options that centered, or we're not alcohol centered or centered non-drinkers. And I think that is such an opportunity. Some of the specific ideas suggested were, number one, wanting a movie theater. I know we have some movie theater resources on campus, but they want like a traditional movie theater that's walking distance from campus where they can see the newest Marvel movie or whatever kind of is the blockbuster at the time. But they also had some fun entertainment ideas like escape rooms, bowling, axe throwing, more live music. I know live music is already a thing we have, but even more of it. And so the other theme I really heard from them was that they may know about performing arts that's happening, but don't necessarily know if there's student discounts or other things that may make it more affordable for them to participate. And so I think that could be a communication piece of just getting information to our students about the different ways that they can engage downtown in really affordable ways, going back to that affordability comment. But I think they are very interested and excited to engage more deeply. And so some ideas for the developers out there, if you will, for things we might add.
Do you go to the next slide, Kirsten?
Yeah.
Thank you. So related to that, I just wanted to share a little bit about parent engagement in the downtown community. A lot of this you likely know too, just seeing, as you mentioned, I think earlier, Peggy, how numbers might spike during certain visit times. But post campus tour, there are some key times that we're welcoming families to campus. Certainly that starts over the course of the summer when families are here at orientation. And so many families are engaging with the downtown at that time, especially in the evening. The larger office that I'm in also focuses on orientation, and we do every year think about ways that we can create programming for parents in the evening. And so we've done that in different spaces throughout campus, but I don't know, maybe there's an opportunity to partner with downtown in a different way, or, have a featured walking tour that's self-guided where we can highlight different areas or shops. Or I have my colleagues here in the office, Lucas and Cassie and Lindsay, who are really focused on orientation as their primary job, but we do get to partner with them too, especially on the parent and family aspect. And I wonder if there's ways that we can help families, especially those who aren't from the area and really don't know Madison, which sometimes I take for granted as someone who grew up, south of Madison and spent a lot of time here growing up. But to be able to kind of illustrate for them what could be available or what's a short walk from where the programming is taking place. Talked a little bit about football earlier, how we move family weekend off of a football weekend. We know, though, parents and families are still interested in partaking. So we partner with athletics to offer them discounted tickets for an event we call Football Game Days for parents and families. We don't do a lot of original programming. We point them to existing programming, but maybe that's an opportunity for us all to further partner. The weather's still pretty nice in September because they give us the games where they've got some tickets to, to share too. So it tends to be September and sometimes in November. I wanted to share with you all the family weekend date. We're going to announce this more broadly in an upcoming newsletter, but it's live right now. It's on our website, so it's not a secret. But we have the date as October 18th through 20th. I'll talk a little bit building on what Kirsten was saying about amenities and how people engage with downtown on the next slide about how we're already featuring downtown. But if you've got more ideas or ways in which we might want to partner, we never say no. Programming, information, news articles, we can find a place to repurpose or repackage or share information with families. So consider that an open invitation too. If there's a blog post that you know of, or an article or a topic you want to be interviewed on that we could share with families, or an event that you have in mind, a business partner that might be cool to work with, we're very open. So let us know. We have an athletic event that is featured on Family Weekend. We do discounted hockey tickets. And depending on the year and the weekend, that could be men's and women's. It might just be men's, just women's. Sometimes we also get access to volleyball tickets too. But one of the wonderful reasons that it's great to be off of a football game is we're not dictated by the TV network schedule, which sets that game time about a week in advance. And so we actually saw satisfaction rates for Family Weekend go much, much, much higher up. We still get that feedback like, oh, we'd love if it was on a football game. But really, when we're asking people afterwards and assessing how their experience was, it's so much greater because we're not connected to that game time and we can't do other programming. They're having such a better experience because they are doing things throughout campus and in the downtown Madison community. And that is really enhancing their sentiment and their positive feelings about the event and also about campus broadly. We ask them if they feel more connected to Madison and more connected to the community as a result of their experience, and like 98% say yes, that event contributed to that connection and those feelings. We do a small winter family event in January that does connect, again, to hockey with discounted tickets. I mentioned earlier Badger Family Spring Visit, which is every weekend in April. That's coming up. We're gearing up for it right now. So if you have ideas about ways that we can connect, that would be great. We sort of serve like a travel agent and less of a curator. As you all know, April is such a dynamic time on campus. And so we're highlighting and featuring those events, a lot of which are happening downtown, whether that's like film festival events or the farmers market. So many of the activities are taking place in the downtown area. We know a lot of people are eating there and just having leisure experiences there too. And then finally, I mentioned commencement earlier from a hotel perspective, but we know that's a big time too, and we're having lots of families here on campus. And then lastly, oh, maybe it's not coming. Oh, there we go. Lastly, I just wanted to share, I know we're getting close to the end of our time, but briefly just let you know that people enjoy experiencing downtown during Family Weekend. A signature event that my colleague Monica created a few years ago in partnership with the BID is the Downtown Madison Cheese Walk. And so that event features businesses throughout State Street, ending at Formagination on the Capitol Square. where folks are going into local businesses. They get a discount from the businesses on items if they purchased in store. And then they have like world-renowned cheesemakers in the businesses that allow for a sampling of cheese. That's always rated as a great event for families. You can see in our most recent data, our most highly attended event, number 5, was our Wisconsin Specialty Cheese Walk. But we also know people are really enjoying events that we're not even coordinating that are happening in the downtown. So I think about our most enjoyed events, and Dane County's Farmers Market is number 2. So maybe there are ways that we can continue to partner and welcome families at some of those events that they're already going to throughout campus and the community.
That is what we have for you, but we know that we can have a really fun discussion, which is what we're excited about. And we're open to any questions y'all have. I am going to stop sharing my screen so I can see more faces.
Well, I'll do the.
Oh, go ahead, Matt. Sure.
Sorry, Becky. Didn't mean to talk over you. I'll do the rude thing and just start talking rather than raising my hand. Stephanie, Kirsten, thank you for that really valuable information. I love to see all of the discussion about the things that the students want, kind of the comments behind the survey, because some of those things that you mentioned, I think, are really doable within specifically the confines of the bid, and then specifically even more closely aligned with, say, Peace Park or the 400 to 600 block. So I would love to see some of the actual things that they said, if I can, because I think we can try to work some of those into our programming. And then also just wanted to say, it feels like the connection between the bid specifically and the university continues to get stronger.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And so if possible, love this collaboration and look forward to doing anything we can.
Great. Thanks, Matt. Ted, you're unmuted. You must have a question.
Well, I have 2 questions. So first, a lifetime ago, I went to the UW. It's 40 years ago now, and I don't seem to recall any of this. I seem like even my parents, I don't think I took a campus tour. I think they rolled up on the basketball courts at Celery Hall and dropped off a bunch of boxes, and that was it. And State Street was just where the Flamingo was or something like that, and everything else. So I'm curious from others who may have attended UW or have kids who have recently attended, what's the compare and contrast one? This is night and day from when I went to school here. And then the second thing is how much of this then leads to those students like me who came to Madison and loved this town and never moved away? How many of those people stay, live, and work here in Madison?
There's a survey, and I don't know exactly the details, but there's a survey that folks in advising put out. Kirsten, what's the name of it, if you're remembering? It's a survey for students who have recently graduated to talk about college plans. So it might not have that like alumni longevity of like how long do they stay in Madison? What does that look like? What is that called? Is it the predestination survey, Kirsten? That campus?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I'd have to look it up for the actual title. Okay. But yes.
Yeah, but Ted, maybe we could get some info regarding, because it talks a little bit about their first job and where that'll be located. And it's a survey that they ask of recent grads. And so that might be an interesting spot to kind of take a look at that question. And you're right too, it's so different. I was actually a student working in campus and visitor relations when the parent and family program launched. And I remember my predecessor handing out postcards to sign up our parents to give the communications. And I remember being like, why would you email my mom? Like, I'm not signing up for this. And so it's just funny to kind of now be in this space more fully, because there's been such an evolution. And I think too, certainly a greater want for students to have their families connected to information, which is still emerging.
My parents lived in Elkhorn. They still do. But lived down in Elkhorn. They didn't want to drive all the way to Madison. So literally, if I had to go home, I had to take the bus to get to Janesville because they wouldn't want to drive all the way to Madison.
Yes, Ted, I am from Janesville and I have read that Van Gelder, and I do think the price has increased since my previous round trips. So yeah.
Right, but I think this is a good economic tool for the city, because I think what makes Madison great is it's young, it's vibrant, it's dynamic, it's educated, it's an economic powerhouse. There's innovation happening here. And that starts with creating that positive experience on campus.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just going to add, one of my favorite comments to see is in the parent and family group when someone says, well, my student has decided to stay in Madison. They fell in love with the city, and I'm sad they're not coming home to wherever the family's from. But yeah.
Easy to do, right? We love it
Yeah.
here. I do have one question. When you do your SOAR tours, is there like a lanyard or some kind of either a lanyard or a ticket, or is there something that you provide to students and the families that are dated? So, could an idea be that on SOAR days, when just that day, perhaps they would be able to go to certain businesses to get a discount or to get something free with their meal or whatever that offer might be. Is there something that they have that's dated?
I don't know if it is dated. I don't think things that we distribute are. I could check on that, Peggy. Kirsten, I don't know if you have more insight on that. But I do think there are still ways that we could think about that and be creative. I'm thinking about the fact that we do a lot of email communications to families and students prior to their attendance at SOAR. Maybe if they were to bring something that has their SOAR date on it, that would apply. Or, there might be ways in which we could, I'm sure, think about what that could look like based on what they're already receiving.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to offer these constant discounts, right? If you're a small business, and we all love our small businesses, but that's really a challenge for them too, or a constant hotel rate, discount. But, if they came and took advantage of it on that date, I think that could be a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Other questions? Anybody else have questions? Yeah, Matt, go for it.
Yeah, Kirsten, how many people, what's the number of people that tour per year, roughly?
46,000 for prospective and admitted students, but that does not include our specialty, which I think is closer to in the 60s. Emily, does that sound right? I'm poking at Emily because Emily is actually the one who tracks all of the numbers for a team, but not easy to pull on the immediate.
And does that, sorry to put you on the spot. Does that include the family members that are with the student, or is that just the students?
It does. So that 46,000 would be a prospective student, and then any family members that they bring with them.
That is not a small audience.
It is not. No. And we are getting into the thick of it. We had winter gets a little quieter, but March and April are going to be packed.
Yeah.
Other questions? Jason, anything? Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's more questions, but certainly when you look at this, first of all, this is amazing information, right? I don't know, in my 6 years, we've had access to this information, right? And how it sort of shapes the direction of downtown, but it also is a communication issue of what we're already doing to shape the downtown. And I think there's a couple of opportunities. One, I think we should just connect and, there's data and information that we can get to you all or to the tour leaders or whoever to talk about, well, what's happening with the ISMA Safety Initiative, right? What's happening with the Student Affordable Housing Workforce Group that literally is meeting this afternoon at 4:00, and Jeff Novak's giving a presentation. All of these things that are in the works right now and what's happening, that's just a communication issue. However, it's a two-way communication issue because we need the information from the students, which is it's notoriously hard to get, right? The only method that I have that's worked in my 6 years is to put a grade on it, honestly. And so the reason why I was a visiting lecturer at SOHI was to get student information about spaces. And it works, put a grade on it, and they do. So I think we should connect there. But it's a really important time to have this presentation because we need UW's feedback now more than ever because Kirsten, the strategic visioning plan that should launch here in either Q2 or Q3, right? And we're going to bring in a national consultant. If students are a part of this, we've made a huge error in what should happen in the downtown. And so I think I'll send you both a note and let's just set up a meeting relatively quickly to see how we can help with both forms of the communication, both the ins and the outs. But thank you for this
Absolutely.
amazing presentation.
And I will note our sample size is small, right? We reached out to my student staff. So I think if there are other opportunities to continue to engage with different audiences and ask the questions wider, it seems like a key opportunity. I also think looking at the newest color of drinking results would be really interesting maybe for this group to talk through. And just to see what movement there has been, if any, since the last iteration post-pandemic.
Yeah, one other area, Jason, and you mentioned unhoused students earlier, but that may be having a UW representative if you know of somebody on this. Catholic Charities and DMI have a quarterly meeting, and we all share what's going on right at the Beacon, which is the daytime shelter, the Porch Light, the nighttime, but we also have Catalyst for Change, and all these groups come together. But it would be really important to have someone from UW, I think, at that. So
Brenda is there. Brenda Gonzalez is there.
Is she on that? Oh, okay. I didn't realize.
Yeah,
okay, great. Awesome. Any other questions or any other comments or insights anyone wants to share?
Just in case y'all didn't see it, I did drop the full 2023 numbers into the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Emily.
It's a big number for sure. Jason, anything
That's a
else?
lot. No, I just want to say thank you. I think this was a super important conversation. The timing couldn't be better. Obviously, you're ramping up your big season. I think if we connect relatively soon, I think we can get information to folks of things that we're doing. We're resources, right? So not only the information, that's what we do, Matt, myself, John, and the team, but we also make connections, right? And so Carla is here right now from Porchlight. Like, how we help the people experiencing homelessness side. All of that work is happening, right? I mean, every single one of those things by amazing people like Carla, like Michael and John, like, Sarah Lim and Casey Becker, all these folks that are doing all of this work. So we are here to help make those communication connections, because you can't reach out to all these groups. That's our job, to be that sort of fulcrum in those. So I will literally send you a note the minute we hang up to connect and to deepen this work. But I just want to say thank you. And I want to say thank you to all the committee members that participated here today, and those that are listening and recording on the recording. This is important information for us to grow the downtown. UW is the secret sauce of downtown. And so we are so thankful for all the partnerships and want to grow them even more in the next several years.